welcome on this February 26, 2026 to another episode of the DCA Podcast. This is your host, Reverend Dr. Ruben Dockery. Grateful for each of you that will join us either here on live stream with YouTube or live stream with Facebook. We're happy to be back with you. You know, last week we had our 3-day virtual fundraiser, and we were grateful for those of you that joined us and those of you that supported us already. And we're looking for more of you to do so. All right. Tonight we're resuming with our regular podcast. We suspended it last week because Thursday night was a part of our three-day virtual fundraiser. All right? And we endeavor to be with you about 30 minutes this evening, and as we have been consistently trying to keep it within that window frame. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule on this Thursday night. As usual, Facebook, if you have a question or comment that you would like to pose to us, please feel free to post your question or comment there. If we don't get to you tonight in real time, we'll certainly respond to you after the fact, okay? But this is the last night we will be with you for Black History 2026, February 26th. And so we're grateful for the opportunity to share some historical information tonight. But as usual, we relate it to our aim, our purpose, our goal for DCA, Dockery Christian Academy, that being focused on providing quality education for at-risk males. We're based right here in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're grateful to be able to come on tonight and talk to you about our vision for educating these young men. And with that in mind, that is the context by which we bring tonight's episode. Again, this is February the 26th, and we're grateful again for you to join us. Tonight, our topic is, what promise does the 4th of July offer black males in America? That question is related to a question that was asked some years ago by Frederick Douglass. And so tonight, what we want to do is to bring those two questions together. But before we leave, yours truly aimed to answer that question. What promise does the 4th of July offer black males in America? Let's get right into it. In the zeitgeist of the age of 1852, concerns about the social, economic, educational, and even overall well-being of the Negro slave were not widespread among everybody. There were some who were abolitionists and who had an interest, but not everybody. In fact, most of the interest was based on power and control in the American Congress related to the American economy. That's really what slavery was all about: money, economics. Now, given the fact that most Negroes in America were slaves and considered to be the property of their slave owners, the reality is that the leverage for those that were slave owners in the South was, we get to count our slaves for votes in Congress, right, to advance our political agenda. Well, that's what the real fight was about: losing control of economic means and the ability to have voice or votes in Congress. The North wanted to neutralize that. They were interested in a more industrial-based, moving toward an industrial-based economy, whereas the agrarian South, the agricultural economy, had been big for everybody, but largely the South. And that was the fight. All right? A little context there. Now, the latter issue that I just talked about was the basis for the fights for those who were on the anti and the pro abolitionist type movements and positions relative to slavery. It was the aforementioned reality that drove the father of Negro suffrage, Frederick Douglass. Yes, he was the father of the black vote. Push for it. Okay? He asked a question on July the 4th in 1852 while he was talking to an audience that he had of abolitionists. And he was trying to get them appeal to their conscience. And as discussed before in a previous podcast, I think it was the 12th of February we aired, I discussed how the United States Supreme Court were involved in several major Supreme Court precedents or decisions that related to this matter in terms of the independence. The 4th of July is mostly associated with American independence, right? And the promise of independence for American citizens. So ultimately, not only was the Supreme Court cases paramount, but this issue about the freedom of the Negro and their ability to be self-sufficient and so forth and so on was the basis for ultimately the Civil War that kicked off around 1862. It was brewing from 1850 up to about 1861, when it officially kicked off there. And at the forefront of the issue is how are these individuals who some people see as property and others see as being worthy of being respected as human beings and considered to be citizens, right? This was the issue. Furthermore, the subject matter is related to the simultaneous study of Afro-American history and the United States history. You can't accurately discuss either one of them by itself. Anyone that is intellectually honest knows that the Negro, once called Negro, colored, black, Afro-American, has deeply sketched their print and left their mark on American history. You see, in fact, Africans long have been an integral part of the growth and development of what we now call the United States of America. No doubt about it. So, with great irony, here's the issue. I still hear, particularly from African Americans, Frederick Douglass' question today being posed. But it's posed in the guise of a complaint, of an explanation or an excuse for a reason for not moving forward and striving to be self-sufficient and pushing to take advantage of all that is inscribed in American independence and the rights of citizenship and those privileges. So that question remains unanswered today. And I contend to you that 174 years later, we are still, some people, not everybody, but there are some people who are still trying to understand if, in fact, the concept of independence espoused by Thomas Jefferson in 1776 on July 4th, does that apply to the Negro, to black people, African Americans? I submit to you that it does. And most importantly, what we should look at, friends, is the fact that it is up to you, to me, and to every American citizen, first to identify yourself by your rights, stand on that, right? And act within those rights. And that will define for you what your rather not independence, the 4th of July, means anything, how much it means to you. That's up to you. That's not up to nobody else to determine for you or to define for you. That's up to you. So tonight, what I'd like to do is to lay out to you. Now, you may disagree with me. Again, feel free to pose your question or comments or your disagreements. I'd love to respond to you and have a dialogue. Let's talk about it. But I submit to you that the only person that can define or answer that question adequately is you, the individual, and then collectively African Americans. Okay? And again, I want to stipulate that I understand this is not a quandary or an inquiry for everybody, but there are a great many. In my conversations, in my travel, I hear a lot of good people and even fellow historians who still pose a question. They ask the question, really, it's an intellectual, intellectually stimulating dialogue. Is it real? You know, there's some of us, some brothers I know who were heavy in Garveyite and the teachings of Marcus Garvey and Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington and others, you know. So it's an intellectual conversation, sure enough. But the reality is that you're born here and you have a right to everything everybody else has. You've got to go, though, and take advantage of it. Now, let me just say that I understand that in the context of Reconstruction after the Civil War, that was a big question. In fact, Frederick Du Bois posed the question in some of his writings. In the Crisis magazine, he raised that question. What to do with the Negro? Now he's free. And Booker T. Washington, in his book, Up From Slavery, he describes how individuals once were told when, where, and how to go and what to do. And now that they're free, they're roaming free and just nowhere, without, aimlessly, because there's no one to tell them what to do, to feed them. You're free now. You're on your own. It's up to you to take care of yourself. But that's a challenge. I would argue that in some ways, there's a population of individuals who still are challenged with answering the question, what do I do with myself? What does the promise of American freedom, economically, socially, politically, what does that mean for me? If you're waiting on somebody else to answer that, beloved, you're going to be waiting a long time. And I'm sad to say you'll be disappointed, sadly disappointed. So let's do it tonight. Let me offer you a little some help there. Let's for the next few minutes here. Let's talk about what is it that the dream of American freedom. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that amongst them being life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now watch this. Watch what Thomas Jefferson said. This is the trick on the words. He went on further to say, but to secure these rights, governments are established among men. In the context of black boys that will one day grow up to be men, I want to submit to you today that what you need to do to secure your rights as a citizen is to align yourself with the principles of manhood, because governments are established among men to secure these rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Don't let nobody chump you and make you a boy. Grow up to be men in America. Now, part of what we want to do with Dr. Christian Academy is to provide that context academically, that knowledge base, you see, so that you can grow up to be the man you choose to be. Not just here on American soil, but anywhere in the world. You see, that's what's important, beloved. And God has intended for you not to be the tail, but the head. Huh? Well, that's what's his intention for you. And what we have to tell these young men is that you're not a wild animal. You're not a thug. Huh? You're not a criminal. No. That's not how God made you. But he made you in his likeness and in his image and endowed you with authority and power. Yes, he did. You just don't know it, that's all. I come to let you know that you have the power to be who and what God created you to be. Let's find out what that is. Now, in the context of American citizenship and independence, what does that look like? What does that look like? Okay. All right. So, 3 things we want to do tonight. We want to answer that question. What promise does the 4th of July offer black males in America? 1. 2, I want you to think about changing the way you see yourself. Just for a minute, okay? I want you to consider something. Then 3, I want to tell you about our 40,000 Founding Builders campaign. We had a good time, and I appreciate those who joined us and participated the other night. And we're going to do some more, and the fundraising is still going. I'll tell you more about that. So that I don't digress too much, let me get back to the topic at hand. So the first thing, let's get to the first thing. What promise does it have? The promise of those words I just recited from Thomas Jefferson applies to you as a human being. All men, not German men, not Italian men, not white men, not black men, but all men are created equal. God made you with spiritual and universal right to exist in this day and well into the foreseeable future. And not as someone else's property at the whim of someone else, but independently for yourself. Question is, from the time you're born as a little baby, to the time you grew up to the age of maturity and adulthood and independence, how prepared are you to be the man you were called to be? And that's what we're talking about. Now, what does it take to be a man? What does it take to be a man? First, you got to know what manhood is. Yes, you got to know what manhood is. I wrote a workbook, Understanding the Male Growth Process. Fatherly Instructions, Understanding the Male Growth Process. And in that workbook, back in 2006, when we first started a lecture, you can see some of this on the website, www.doctorateacademy.us. Okay, go there, you can check some of it out. In this workbook, we looked at 4 stages of growing to be a responsible man. And then there was a 5th stage, an August point of becoming a father. You grow up as a boy, automatically, naturally you're going to be a boy. You're a male with masculine reproductive organs. That's how you're born. You grow and develop socially, and you're socialized and influenced by other social cues in your family and your friends and your parents, right? The voice of authority. And as a boy, you either become aggressive or assertive in your identity. Aggressively, you step on other folk and disregard other people. Assertively, you assert knowledge and information, lessons that you've learned. Then ideally, you cross boyhood into responsibility. That's manhood. Responsibility for what, Doctor? Whatever's in your domain. If it's just a cardboard box under a bridge, you keep that thing clean and you make sure you don't override yourself with anybody else. If you have people that you're responsible for and people that rely on you, by being responsible, you prove yourself worthy as a man. Certainly you're of an age now where you can procreate, right? And if you do so, you're responsible enough to take care of your children. How do you do that? You position yourself now as a man to become a husband, a committed individual, a man that is committed in marriage with a woman that you procreate with. You see, that's the husband. Are y'all walking with me? And then, as you consummate your marriage, you become a father. So fatherhood is key. Now, what stops you from doing that in the United States of America? Nothing. With your education, you learn and you understand about resources and opportunities around you. That's the purpose of an education, is to empower you with knowledge. You take that knowledge, you apply it, and you establish yourself, whatever your gift or calling is. It's okay to work a job. That's perfectly fine. I would encourage you to be thinking about how at one point, though, you become an entrepreneur and own your own time and means of production, economic independence, right? And then you position yourself to give back to society, to make a contribution to humanity. And now we're at a point where we have grown as a man. This is the promise that the 4th of July offer black boys in America. Question is, how do we get there? How do we get there? All right? Through your children and your offspring, you live as long as they live and they carry your message. Let me say that one more time. Brethren, through your children and your offspring, your sons, your daughters, as long as they carry your teaching, your example, your name, you live through them from one generation to the next. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Now the question is, how is it that we got so far away from this? You got a right to acquire knowledge. I told you education is a process that involves teaching and learning. Somebody is teaching, offering information, and someone is absorbing, taking it in. They're learning it, right? But the question is, what are you teaching? What's the content material? And ultimately, are they learning? We know that learning is defined as a change in one's behavior after exposure to example or knowledge or instruction. Now, if you are going from one year to the next, one day to the next, and you're not changing your behavior, you're still stuck. And there are some people that are stuck in a certain decade, a certain period of time. They've never been able to come out of it. And if we are still stuck in 1852 with that question, what does the 4th of July mean to me? Well, I would submit to you, you need to answer that right away so that you can grow up and become independent. I say that respectfully. At the end of the day, we have the responsibility to ourselves and those who we're responsible for around us. Okay? And what I want to emphasize here tonight is that through Dr. Christian Academy, you can learn to do. That's what we're aiming to do for these young boys. More than just teach them about reading and math. That's good. That's going to be useful. But there's some other things they need to learn. I would argue that the first thing they need to learn is that God made you. Jehovah Elohim made you in his likeness and in his image, and you have power in the universe. Huh? That's why we pull up our britches and we keep ourselves clean and neatly presented, and we demonstrate our level of knowledge and affluence. We carry ourselves with respect and dignity. We honor ourselves first and demand that others respect us. We present ourselves with command presence so that everybody else knows when you see me, you're not talking to no chump. You're talking to a man. And you respect me as such. Accordingly, I will respect you as such. That's what it is. This is the promise. This is the promise of the 4th of July. Now, I know that historically, this promise was not always there and it was not always kept. I know that slavery and furthermore, black codes and Jim Crow got in the way. You understand? Discrimination got in the way. This is 2026. There are no more excuses. You don't have to like me, but you better respect me, because I'm going to present myself in such a way that I demand that respect. Now, when I act like a wild animal, less than human, I expect to be treated like that. But when I walk, talk, conduct myself as a man, I demand respect as such. And that's what we teach young boys. That's the opportunity. That's the promise of the 4th of July. Why do you embrace American principles and ideology? I don't know. Maybe you can afford to go live in another country and embrace that country's heritage and so forth. That's your choice. But I would submit to you that as long as you are here in the United States of America, take advantage of the rights you have here, because we certainly earned it. I told you earlier, you cannot tell American history without talking about the contributions, oftentimes involuntarily, that we of the Afro descent have offered this nation. The Bible says that the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the just. I come to get my stuff. I'm looking for my stuff. All right? All right. Now, so what I want to encourage you to do is to step out the box and don't think that you're not worthy of all the rights and privileges of an American citizen. You are. You are. Now, how you going to help me? Thank you first in advance for help. You've been hearing me talking about 40,000 people giving at least $100. What is that for? When you go to the website, you'll soon see the 3-day fundraiser. We took time to explain exactly how what your $100 are going to do. In 3 days, we did that. And you'll find it most informative and fascinating. www.dockeryacademy.us. Go there. Go there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to edit this, and we're going to place that again on the website and post it on Facebook as well. We're filming. We're live streaming now on both sources. When you give, we identify you as a founding builder. Now, typically, when new businesses start and they seek seed capital to kick off, they turn to accredited investors, and they ask individuals or groups or businesses to make a contribution, a larger contribution, and that enables them to get going. Well, we are still interested in that, but most importantly, what I'm most interested in is the collective will of good people. And with your $100 and the unity of 40,000 individuals, we would have the funds that we need to start our school. The good news is that we're listed on the Tennessee Department of Education, Dockery Christian Academy is, as a school, right, that parents can go to for private school education. It's the category 4 right now, and we're moving into category 2 in very soon. What that does is that said, go to the website, and you go to the state website, you'll find us listed there. Okay, we are members of the Association Christian Schools International, which qualifies us for that. And through our accreditation, through that process of becoming accredited through the Association for Christian Schools International, we're able to provide academic credit from grade 7 through 12. Your money is going to help us do that. Young men that are in failing schools, and let me reiterate again that my intention is not to bash or beat up on teachers in those schools that are failing, but to save the boys. Save the boys. Particularly these black boys who only see graduation from juvenile detention to adult prison, or worst, early demise. That's got to stop. Lord be my help. We're going to stop that. Okay? And through this educational process will ensure that they have a path to success and be able to benefit from the promise of the Declaration of Independence that was written in 1776 on July 4th. Yeah, I know you say that was written for white men, but guess what? I'm taking it from you, and I'm going to apply that to me as an Afro-American. Huh? You ain't got to like it. It's all right. I'm not asking you to like it. Just show a little respect. Put some respect on that thing. Okay? Now, that's about our time. I want to thank you for joining us. Dockery Christian Academy, www.dockery, D-O-C-K-E-R-Y, the word academy.us. That's the website. Everything is there for you. And I want to encourage you to subscribe there. Shoot us your email. Talk to me. Let's get with it. Soon we're going to be engaging and doing an educational piece, a training piece for parents in Nashville, Davidson County to understand opportunities through educational savings account. All right, Lord willing, we're going to kick that off real soon. All right, but with your help, we can make it happen. This is your host, Reverend Dr. Reuben Dockery. You've been listening to the DCA Podcast. DCA stands for Dockery Christian Academy. All right, and Lord willing, we'll come back next Thursday. Now, happy Black History Month. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. Hope you learned something. We strive during this month to offer you some historical information relative, to African American contributions. And next week we're going to keep on doing it, but we'll be talking about Dockery Christian Academy, so we'll hear more from you there. Okay? Feel free to post your questions and comments there in Facebook, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys on next week. You've been listening to music from the baby boy, the son of Prophet Robert Lee Dockery, Mr. Mario Abney. We spotlighted him on last week. Come back and join us next week, and we'll be happy to share more information.